session view. This is a great place to start your track for the layout and get the sections together and then record them into the arrangement. So you get the best of both worlds in Ableton. You get the freedom to improvise, jam, compose the song by feel, and make the sections as long as you want or whatever. Change when you feel like it. If you get bored, you start a new clip. All that kind of fun improv stuff. And you can also record into the timeline to make a detailed final mix that's ready for release. The original problem with electronic music was having like a drum machine, a synth, a mixing board, and you could jam all day and tweak knobs and everything, but the final recording would be like, ooh, you know, a stereo mix, and you couldn't really fix it later. Maybe you could multi-track it if you had Pro Tools, but who had Pro Tools back then? Now with Ableton, we get these massive advantages. So what I'm doing right now is a series of weekly workshops where I take my own tracks, show you how I made them with a couple of specific focuses. Number one, sound design to make original sounds that move around. Number two, song structure to have a climax of something that happens in the track. And number three, the mix to drop some bass. So this is week 2. We're doing song structure. Let me show you right away where we're going to start and what the music is. This is like basically picking up at the end of the sound design workshop from last week. What I did was I programmed some clips with a bunch of automation that was changing something so that the clip would create a climax. You can see all these parameters are automated in this jingle sound. So I'm going to play a couple scenes that are like, this is like the main buildup. So if you're on Beatport and you're looking at the preview of a track, this would be like the preview section of that main buildup going to the main drop. Hey Parrish, thanks for joining me, everybody. I'm going to try and just do a tutorial smoothly. I'm not going to talk quite as much as I do during track feedback, but I love people hanging out and being here. So thanks for being here. This is the music we're going to play through, and then I'll show you everything I do in session view to create the song sections and end up over here in the arrangement. So here's the music. 3, 4, 5, counting in my head, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Watch this timer in the jingle counter. 12. 15, 16. And we go into that big empty drop with beats, bass, the vibe, and after that we can layer it up with the next sound. You can see the next one after 8 bars, the melody enters. And from there, we go on and jam. Let me give you a little expanded view. I built this song that starts up here where it says start. And what this is all about is creating the events in the music. Hey, Min is here, Min the Universe. Thanks for joining up. I got to promote our interview better. We did a cool interview. He's a great producer. So the events in the track, I want to make this very clear. The event in a piece of music is stuff that everybody knows, even if they're not a producer. Because you hang out with your producer friends and you're like, oh, I'm working on this build up or this filter sweep. And they're like, yeah. But if you talk to people who love music at electronic shows, here's what they remember. They're like, oh, I was dancing and I heard the intro for that new song come in and I was like, yes. So they know the intro. They recognize a new sound coming into the set, right? Into the mix. Number 2, people are talking about their favorite DJs. They're like, I don't know, Nora has the biggest buildups. The buildups, the climaxes, those are things that people remember. The hands in the air, the strobe lights, the confetti going off, all that kind of stuff. The climaxes are events that people remember. And of course, the drop, whatever your favorite track is right now, you're probably like, when I'm playing, I want this drop in this moment. And that's what's going to happen. So that's like the things that normal people remember, like, oh, I like that stuff. So I want to show you in my layout what that looks like and then how I use these sounds to get there. And I'll try to keep this down to an hour because there's a lot to go through. But okay, so there's the opening, which is like the intro. We got a bass and building, a kick drum drop. First time the kick drum enters, clearly that's a big moment. And in a DJ set, that would be like after the mix-in section, the kick drum drops. That's like the first time you hear the new track all by itself with the old mix all the way out. We're going to drop the sub bass. We're going to do the main build up where the beats and everything drop out. That's what I just did. Drop 2 is like about, 3 minutes through the song. This is like a tech house kind of track. So you could tell minute by minute what's happening. After the main drop, the space dub, where you're free to kind of have some fun and play around and get free form because you've already had the main climax and the main drop. Now it's like the fat part of the beat before the mix out. Then a section called the ending dub, which is also freeform, and then the actual ending. So that's kind of how those are like the landing pads I want to have when I'm building any kind of track, any genre, whatever, any tempo. I want to be able to know, okay, I'm going to have an intro, I'm going to layer in the beats, I'm going to make a build up, hit the main drop where it's the fat section of bass and beats, and then after that, there's a second little peak, some other cool stuff in the build down. Basically, jump. DJ Waters popping in. What's happening? I got your track. Play it on tomorrow. I will play it tomorrow. So before I go into the details of doing that, there's some prep that I do in sessions to get ready for building my song structure. Because I start with making beats, loops, sound design, all that stuff. And before I can lay out the song structure, I want to know what my ingredients are. So the first thing I do is I work with something called, I call them clip stacks. It's like a backup of all the clips. So I make a scene called drums clips and a scene called synths. And this is just like a palette to draw from. So when I'm creating a section later and I think of that one loop that was really cool, I know I can grab it here, copy it, paste it in somewhere else, and I'm not going to make the mistake of accidentally deleting the clips that I needed. So make sure everything is stopped. And up here, you can see I got my drums grouped, so I can keep them easily in one place. Clearly, we got the kick drum. All right, no big deal. The clips, the clicks. And those are just the basic elements of a track. You recognize all those sounds. Then I went through and did some variations. So with the clicks, this one's called click build. This is, again, a little bit of the sound design automation thing. Let's see if this is going to restart. I just had a processor glitch of some kind. Thanks for watching, and let's see when it comes back on. All right, there we go. Gonna have to edit that one out. I was just automating the click track with a reverb swell so that when I'm building the song in session view, I have some transitions and things that are happening that make it feel exciting. Likewise with the ride track, it's not just a normal ride. I did a little bit of a stretch with the impulse. And listen to how this changes the ride symbol. Little details like that keep the sounds flowing. And I did a few of those in each one of the sounds, maybe not in every single one, especially in this. Scratchy breakbeat kind of a sound. And those make it really, really fun to layer in your drum clips. And at the end of a 16-bar chunk, you can have an effects sweep that leads you over to the next song section, which will become important later. For synth clips, similar kind of thing. I've got the basic elements of the track. So mid-range bass line, jingle thing, and a melody. Low mid-range, middle mid-range, melody mid-range. Those are the three parts of frequency range. And again, I have clips with a bunch of automation so that what I'm going to basically do is build scenes where I pick some drum sounds, pick some synth sounds, go through and stack up layers so that, like, if you think of listening to a song when every 8 bars a new sound comes in, well, we're doing the same thing, but now we're just adding them in vertically in scenes. So song sections, we're going to set up the main sections. That's what I was talking about with the events, like intro, build up, drop, outro, ending, whatever. We're going to pick the starting sounds for each one. So what I did in my actual Ableton view, I made a bunch of empty scenes. First, I just created a scene that's called start. And I created the drop the sub. So I knew I wanted to drop the kick drum, drop the sub, and I'm thinking each one of those might be 16 bars or something. These dark gray ones, the main build, I actually just labeled those scenes and did a bunch of Command-I to insert blank scenes that I'm going to fill up. Pick the starting sounds for each section, add them in there, and do the Command-Shift-I, so I'll show you all that. DJ Waters, Voodoo Wax, what's happening, what's happening? Before you start, this is for people who download the project pack. This whole Ableton Live pack is available. I saved this project as an Ableton Live pack that you can download and play with this whole session to do it yourself and play with the layers. So before you do that, what you should do is Command-S, save a project copy so you have the original, and then you can make a working copy and you can edit your copy to play with it. That's important. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to delete my arrangement. Yes, I'm going to delete my whole arrangement, have a fresh start, because we're going to record this track into the arrangement at the end of the workshop today. So now I have a blank slate in the arrangement. All my music is going to be in session view. We'll talk a little bit about controllers and stuff before we start the playback. I want to reinforce counting in your head, because this is all about creating on the fly, mixing, being in the flow, and feeling what's happening. So to start off, we got the opening. I decided this is the hardest thing, is like, what's the first sound going to be? The first sound of your track should be something unique and characteristic that you could mix in on top of another record and hear that it's coming in. Now, it could be just a drum loop and a hi-hat if you want to just mix and beat match and then have your synths come in. But I thought, since beat matching is so good these days, I'm going to start with this synth thing. And I did an automation called short to long, where you can hear it starting off with like a short release time, and then here. And the next layer comes in with this breakbeat thing. So this is really important to grab. If you haven't worked with Session View a lot, the way it works is the future is going down. The future is down. Every time you play the next scene below it, like the scenes progress downwards. So we're going to start at the top. I'm going to launch every scene going down through the master channel. Roughly, I'm going to count every scene is going to be 8 bars, roughly, and every scene has different stuff in it. So we've got the instrument group and the drum group. And just for example, if I'm playing the opening, sounds like an intro. There's one synth, one little clicky thing, the kick drum drop. What's the texture? Got a kick drum, hi-hat, clap, bass synth, mid-range synth, 4 elements. How about the next section or the next event? Kick drum, sub bass, beat loop, clicks. And you know, in track feedback, when I go through the song minute by minute, I ask the question, what's the texture at every minute? How many layers do we hear? Are we hearing different layers at every new drop? Or is it just like a totally repetitive loop for 5 minutes that gets boring? You don't want the repetitive loop. You want different layers coming in and out. So as we go through Session View, we're going to be building different layers, getting up to the main drop and drop 2 and things like that. DJ Waters only work in Arrangement View and rarely use Session View. I know what you're saying. Arrangement View is cool, but one of the things that kind of like gets in the way with Arrangement View for me is, let's say, for example, this one section, like I'm listening to the track, and there's one section that's a little too long, and I'm like, oh, I want to delete that section. You know, you have to select this thing, and you can do some commands to cut the time and delete it and get rid of that section. But then there's automation to think about. If you have any markers, the markers might get moved. And also, you have to just stop listening and cut and paste and stuff. The fun thing about this is, if I'm in a song section and I'm listening right here, and I feel like, oh, you know what? I've kind of been in that section long enough. I want to just skip the whole next thing. I can skip this one and that and go right to the next thing and improvise with the song form on the fly to be able to get to the next song section I want to. So I want to show you this thing about capture and insert sounds. So we have the opening. I already built this thing, so you're not going to see me actually building it. But let's pretend I was going to do a new start. This is what I would do to actually create some sections. And I wanted to start with one sound, that short to long thing in the jingle track. I'll launch from the master scene so everything else gets stopped. Now, what I would do is go to my stack of sounds. Now I'm just listening. 5, 6, 7, 8. So now I got 2 clips playing. What I'm going to do is select this scene, and do a command called capture and insert scene. And now what we have is a new scene with those 2 clips in there. The synth clip and that snare drum beat. Now we're going to do it again. I know I'm scrolling up and down a bunch, but the basic technique is you play a new clip, select the scene, and then we're going to do capture and insert, Command-Shift-I. And we've got a new scene with those sounds in it. Let's add the kick drum. You can pull your sounds from anywhere. Select the active scene where you're building, Command-Shift-I, and you got the kick drum. What I just did was, I just did a little jam. While listening, you can do this while you're playing to go through and create scenes. So let me stop here. Give me a yes on that capture and insert thing. This is what is really the heart of jamming and creating song sections. You don't have to really build anything in advance all the way down. All you have to do is have a bunch of clips that you created and start playing them and fooling around, and you can make new scenes. I'm going to do it one more time. New song form improv right here. I'm going to label that with a color so I can find it again and remember that's what I was doing. Maybe if I do it right here, you'll be able to see everything. So process, stop all clips. Let's start with a kick drum. I'm going to select that scene, Command-Shift-I. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I could be doing this at a show right now. As long as you're counting in your head, you got the timing. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And capture and insert is always going to put the new one below the scene that's selected. So make sure you select the last place. And you can just add in stuff as much as you want. I'm going to add in this 8-bar jammy. And now I got to get ready because after this 8 bars, I want to drop a bass line. So I think I'll drop this one and those two together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We get that sweep starting up. And right now you can see my body. I'm in the groove. I'm counting in my head. I'm feeling the vibe. I could be doing this with an audience, dropping clips, jamming live, inserting each scene like that as I go along. Got the sub in there. Capture and insert. Let's make a little bit of a drop. And I think I have a special clip. Scroll back up. Capture and insert. And I have all these scenes that I just created where I'm building a song structure. Okay? So now I can go back and play through. I'm super rushing this, right? And all those things come in there. And now for a super abbreviated look at the workshop, here's what I would do to make this into a song. Double click on the stop button to put the playhead back at 1-1. I want to turn off the master loop switch so I don't record on top of this little loop and overdub my whole arrangement. I'm going to turn on the automation arm switch so anything I do in the mixer section is going to get recorded. And then I'm located up here. I know that's my first scene. Click the big red button and start. Did I not loop that? I just got distracted on my pushy. You see Steve make mistakes on live video. Let's do that one more time. We're going to record this whole arrangement, or this whole session view thing into the arrangement. So this would be like the intro of the song, building up some layers. The reason I wanted to double stop the playhead at the beginning is because now this is counting the bars and beats in the track, so I can really think how long has each thing been going. And at 24, we're going to launch the next scene. You can see everything's getting recorded in there. There's the sub. Now we're going to drop the kick out and get into a nice little section. Have a little variation, a little tiny gap and turnaround, and it keeps going. And what do we have here? I just recorded everything that I built in those couple of scenes into the arrangement. Reset and start, and you can watch the whole thing develop. You can see the clips come in and stack up. And remember, I first spaced these out and built this timeline thing from feeling it in session view, launching clips. When I was ready for the new clip, I just pressed the launch switch, launched the next one, added a new scene each time. And now I end up with something that's in the arrangement that I can go in and grab some automation and play with the volume, play with whatever I want to do to make the whole track come to life as a full finished thing. So that's combining the improv nature of firing clips randomly and having fun playing by feel with your intuitive vibe of what you want to hear, and then ending up with something you can technically mix and polish and have done. So 12:20, that is the core of the workshop. The rest of this, I'm going to show you some details on how to make it all happen. You know what I would do is I would drop a marker at bar 25. So I know I had like a 16 bar mix in, 8 bar build up. Then at bar 25, we get in here and we have 16 bars of beat going out to 41. At 33, something just came in, and you should really get comfortable with these markers like 17, 25, 33, 41, 57, 65, all the places where 8 bars and 16s and 32s overlap. You get to know them in the timeline. Now, a lot of people do go into the timeline and create stuff, but what if I was like, oh, I want something to happen at, I want more space in between these markers. Like, I might have to stop, drag the marker. Oh, it's off the spot. Okay, hold on. I'm going to do this. I'm going to loop. All right. I'm exaggerating how it's pretending it's hard. Oh, I want to insert some time here. Okay, I'm going to, oh, geez, I want to like duplicate time. I want to make it. There are ways to work with the timeline and create space and move sections. But if you wanted to have like a whole section of 16 bars of stuff from here and copy all this whole thing and insert it over there, that takes some careful editing. You have to create the space, copy it, paste it, make sure you got all the sounds, make sure you didn't forget the ones that were at the bottom that you couldn't see, make sure the automation wasn't locked with your envelopes locked, and then play through it and wait to hear if you got it all right. You got to go through all those editing steps and review and proofreading to make sure that your 16 bar chunk got moved earlier. If you're in session view, if I want to do that same process and take a 16 bar chunk and move it a different space, like I could take this one that says 8 bar scratch break. Number one, I could just let it play for 8 bars longer and let it loop. Or I could go duplicate, so Command D. I can duplicate that section, drag it up to here, and the whole thing's done. No copy and paste in the timeline, no moving stuff around. You could almost do that live. I wouldn't really recommend it because you might stop the stuff that's playing, but it's so much easier to arrange your song form. Let me just read these comments. Parrish, capture and insert looks cool. Also in the past tended to get into arrangement ASAP. Yeah, it is cool to get into the arrangement because you can visually see, here's the beginning, here's the middle, here's what happens next. And when the track is young and small, you can see all those things in one place. But when you're working with 70 files or something and there's these huge things, it can easily get bigger than you can see. And then when it is that big and you're trying to like take song sections and make them earlier or make this longer and you got to insert time and copy stuff and duplicate, it's just a lot to manage. It's kind of like trying to flip a pancake that's like this big. And you're like, oh shit, So when you're working in session view with track groups and buses and things, you can keep stuff condensed and small. And you don't have to do this. I mean, a lot of people don't like session view. It is a conceptual thing. It's for people if you're into the feel of the music and you listen with your eyes closed and you feel how the music flows and you want to be able to like touch it and control it, kind of like tweaking knobs and pressing buttons. It's a really good way to work, especially if you're on the performing side. Now, people who are doing a strictly timeline-based thing where you know what you want to have happen, you just want to put in the parts and compose that way, that's fine. There's tons of people making gold records doing it that way. That's not wrong at all, but this really works well. So I want to play through this song and show you a couple of little tricks that can make it really a lot more interesting. One trick was to automate clips where we have a basic sound with something changing like a reverb swell from inside the track that makes the sound develop over time. You can see these red scenes say Legato Mode switch. What is that all about? Well, sometimes you want to have a little section where the clips keep going. Like, in the session view, every time you launch a master scene, it stops all the stuff that's going on, right? This scene is empty. And if I launch that scene, it's going to stop everything. What if I want to have a scene where the kick drum drops out, but everything keeps going? Okay. I'm going to create a mini transition. 1, 2, 3, 4. Kick drum comes back in. Now I could do that by mousing all the way over to channel 1, hitting the track the track activator switch and muting and unmuting. I could do that on push. I could do it on a mixer with a mute switch on the kick channel. But you don't always have time to get your mouse over to that place or to find that controller or to get your hand on that actual switch at the moment you think, I want the kick drum to drop out. So what I did right here, I built an identical scene that says gap, 1 bar, no kick. Listen to the sounds in this one. So I just basically built a second scene that has all the same clips, but they don't restart. I want to show you that exactly what I mean. This one's called short to long, right? There's automation in this clip. Let's look at some automation you can see. Let's look at some automation you can see. That is resonator to decay. Okay. That's an important automation because the sound is changing texture. And if we restart that clip when I launch this other scene, it's not going to sound right. I'm going to show you how that sounds wrong. What we're doing here is just launching the second scene to drop out the kick drum, make a little variation. 2, 2, 3, 4. And if you watch this automation thing, when I do that little gap thing, it's going to start it over from there. And you basically never hear the sound expand because the automation keeps getting restarted. So what I'm going to do is take this clip, activate the legato launch switch, which means when I launch this second clip, it's going to take over playing from the place it was before. That way we get to hear all this automation restarting. Pitch bend filter. Okay, so now let's watch what happens. I'm going to let this play through so the automation starts to open up on this sound. And it's still getting longer and longer, and I can do that little kick drum drop out as much as I want, and it doesn't restart the automation. So the legato mode, I applied that to every clip in this scene. I just selected all the clips, shift tab to see the clip edit view, turn on legato switch, and that is the legato mode switch. That's not the legato MIDI note switch. You don't want to make all your MIDI notes longer. What we want to do is be able to create a gap scene so that at the end of every song section, I can have this little thing where the kick drum drops out. Let me play through a couple more of these and show you how I use that, okay? So we're going to go. Basically, when I'm leaving this drop section and going to the main build-up, I want to have this kick drum drop out, but I want all the other clips to keep going. So I built a little gap scene. It's just all the same sounds, with the kick drum missing, and the legato switch applied on all these clips. So I can fire off that scene, the melody and everything keeps going, and all that we hear is the kick drum drops out. Just like that. Now, that might seem like a whole lot of confusion just to have the kick drum drop out. What really makes this powerful is these gap scenes can become a transition that you can use to get back into any other song section. Oh, wow, Min, thank you. A great explanation of legato mode. It's going to get better. Let's say we're later on in the track. We're in the space dub, right? And the next thing that happens is the outro and the ending. Now, like, let's say I'm at a show, I'm jamming, the crowd is like tripping balls, dancing like crazy, and I do not want to end this track yet. They're totally into it. Maybe another DJ's like still plugging in their USB interface and they're not ready to go. And I'm not ready to end this record. What am I going to do? Run out a record and like leave them with silence? No. What I'm going to do is use that little gap to enter into another song section like this. Okay. That was special. Let me just make sure. I'm sorry about that. I'm not sure what is stopping my stream because I am cabled in on Ethernet and it usually works fine. And no SoundCloud ads today. The whole cool thing about legato mode is that when you have these song sections built out, the gap sections that I built here, the gap means the legato switch is on, that lets you jump to a new song section without restarting the melody or the bass line. So let me just do that a little bit more. And this is how you have the freedom to improvise your song structure and go between song sections and make anything happen that you want to, and it's still going to feel continuous and fluid, especially when you're doing it with these click sections. So the whole idea is to have some fluid transitions inside Session View using automation and clips and using Legato Mode in your scenes, in your clip settings, so that you can play through the whole thing from start to finish and end up with a track that sounds like actual music. So when you get to the arrangement, you are ready to mix and add some final effects and details. So again, I'm going to delete my experiments, get a blank slate, and let's try playing through this whole track to see what happens. And the reason I want to do this now is to show you some little prep before. So preferences. One thing I like to do is select next scene on launch. That means when you're using a controller and you launch the scene, it goes to the next one, and you don't have to do anything to scroll up and down. Now you can see I'm using my fingers to scroll up and down. If you don't have push, and if you're doing this on only with a laptop and no other controllers, you can still have some hand finger button thing without needing to click on the mouse to get off the mouse pad. So what I'm going to do is enter keyboard mapping mode, Command K or key. Look at these little switches above the master channel. Okay, there's nothing there on that master stop button. When I enter key mapping mode, you're going to see play, stop, up, down, and scroll. These are for the master scene launch controls. So I'm going to put the plus sign on scene launch, bracket up, bracket down, like that. So now I have buttons I can tap to pick the scene I want, launch it. It's going to go to the next one automatically. And if I want to go up or down from there, I can do that. And just mapping those little keyboard buttons makes it so much more fun. If you're working with push, you can also find your, where's my green button? Your bracket and, you know, use your push buttons to do that. But I like to teach in a way that people can do with anything they have, so you don't have to have push to do the workshop. And we're back on. Woo, hidden buttons to map, yeah. And if you really want to get into it, this one with the number on it is a rotary encoder. If you have a lot of scenes, you can map a rotary on there and actually spin the knob and scroll all the way up and down through your project. I used to do that with DJ sets when I had big blocks of like my house set and my tech set, and I wanted to like go, you know, between them quickly and get to like different kind of playlists within Live. So we looked at what controllers to map. I talked about saving a backup copy, project copy. Oh, global launch Quantize. Helps a lot to set this to 1 bar, because what we're going to do is launch scenes, and you want them to drop on the beat. You could do it on quarter note or 8th note if you want to really be precise with it. I don't recommend trying to perform on 16th note quantizing, because if you hit it just a little too soon, the thing can start soon, and people are going to be out of the groove, and then your whole arrangement's going to have like a 1/16 of an inch starting too soon, and it's just not going to be good. It can be fun sometimes to stutter stuff and start it, you know, boom. But I keep that for like the sound design world of stuff. It works really well to have global quantize on 1 bar so that you know your sections are going to start. Controllers, push, keyboard, launch, mapping. Recording checklist. Okay, automation arm. This means whatever I touch in my effects or mixer world is going to get recorded into the arrangement, which is like capturing a live performance. That's the idea we're really trying to get to, is using Session View to perform, even if you're in the studio, to give your track that feel of a live performance where there's a living person in there tweaking the mix and having fun in the music, and people can hear that and feel it. So we want automation. We want arm automation. We want to double tap the stop button to get back to bar 1, beat 1, so that we can watch the master counter and have an idea of how far into the song we are. Of course, master loop off so that we don't end up overdubbing the same 8 bars for 5 minutes. Hey, tuning in from South Africa, Diamond District. What kind of beats y'all making down there? I know you have some really, like a big deep house scene in South Africa, right? I've not been down there, but I've seen plenty of videos and it looks jamming. And then the next thing is basically hit the global record button, get down to the start of your scenes. One more time, check in there. Turn off your phone, do everything. And what I'm going to do is play through all these scenes and just record this whole track into the arrangement. So we're just going to listen to some music. I'll talk a little bit about it as I'm playing it, and let's see what happens. It's always a question of which clips you want to look at. tab over here, make sure I'm recording. Yeah. And then I'm counting in my head, basically every 8 bars, I'm gonna launch a new scene. After 32 bars, the kick drum's gonna come in. Turn my headphones up. 7, 8. Go into the gap. Every 16, 16. Eight. Let's let this go again. 9. 10. 11. 12. 15, 16. Now let's cut out the beats and get into that build up. Remember to watch this little countdown timer in the jingle track because that's what we are really building up. We had the effects send C go up to kind of like carry the effects over into the next drop. 7, 2, 3, 4, 8, 2, 3, 4. Play with little effects, whatever. Oh, Nora and Pure. We just saw her in Pittsburgh. I saw her in the end of September in a small club with great sound. I am in love with that sound. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Don't let me get distracted though. I didn't know she was South African. All right, now I talked too much. I'm gonna skip one of those 8-bar sections and go right here to the next thing down. That's a really good example of when you might want to skip an 8-bar loop. Dummy clip mute. What does that mean? I wanted to mute the drums, so I put a dummy clip on the whole drum bus to mute those sounds. Get into a little space dub, and we're gonna build it back up. You can see a clip stack right here. This one's gonna come in, then the snare on the clap. Bringing in the top hats. And I'm feeling like I want to improvise a little bit. So we've got a gap section over here. I like those spacey delay effects, pitch shifting stuff. You know, this works with any genre of music, so it's not about house or tech or whatever. You can do this with any style of music. Make your scenes or the events in the track. Decide how many layers are in each event. Like the main drop has this, this, and this. Build them out, and then you can go between them in session view. Now again, I was talking a little bit, so let's make a break. It sounds kind of interesting. And jump back down to where we were before. And a new sound comes in. That's literally how useful it is. Those little gap scenes where you know the kick drum is missing and the other clips are going to keep going allows you to like do something interesting at the moment you need something interesting to happen and not mess it all up. I hear this sound is doing its climax thing. I'm going to watch that countdown, let it keep going, and then maybe go to the outro. And that's the power of having a clip with automation that does your swells and risers and buildups for you. So you can choose to fire it off at the right moment, get a transition, and you don't have to be like, I'm trying to tweak 4 different instruments with 4 different effects built in parameters of an effect rack with layers. Like, you're not going to get your hand there in time to make that happen during a set. And where are we at? 6 minutes, perfect. Not any kind of 12-minute dub. It's actually pretty focused. Might even be playable after a mix. And for the ending, so we're going to do that 16-bar climax again. Might be getting a little repetitive right now, but it's the end of the track. So as that climax fires off, and now we're into the mix out. And synths. Do I dare put the kick drum into a delay? Let's get the double. Put your hands up. And I'll even be smart. Return. Bring back my sends back to the level. One more thing, master tip. Listen till your reverbs and delays are totally done and drop a marker. Because a lot of time in track feedback, we hear these test mixes where people get to the end of the beats, they press stop, and the tail's cut off, and we don't hear the decay of all the ending effects. Now, it's not the end of the world, but you never know when your test mix is going to be playable, and you want to play it out, and you might even get it mastered and release it. And if you stop the recording too short and cut off your effects tails, it's like the fade is going to end too soon. It's going to be spoiled. So a really good recording discipline, press stop, listen to your effects tails decay to the end of the tiniest little lowest sound, then count to 5 and then press stop. I learned this interning in a studio. When you're recording a drummer with mics, if you press stop before the cymbals are done, like at the end of the song, if you stop the recording before those cymbals trail off, you're fired. It's going to spoil the take. They're not going to accept that. You know, the pristine sound of the room and the reverb, it's worth it to preserve the tails. So, all Black Coffee, DJ Fresh, yeah. Everybody write those names down. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out. So what I just did was I basically played through my track in session view to go through the events in the song. And when I say events, those are things the audience knows about that they come to your show to hear. An opening with a sound that's unique, that they like. They recognize it when it enters the set in the DJ mix. They hear a new sound enter. They're like, oh, cool, new track's coming in. I'm ready for it. We get the kick drum drop. Some kind of buildup happens. That kick drum hits. That's what we come for. That's why people buy tickets. Dropping the sub bass. Stylistically, I don't know if you have sub bass in your music or not, but dropping the bass line, adding energy, adding layers, that's what it's all about. The main buildup, absolutely, completely, definitely is going to happen in your track. And then the main drop, I know these colors look kind of ugly, but that's a big event that has to happen. The thing that I call space dub is basically after the main drop. That's like the juice of the track. I think my favorite part of almost every record is after the main buildup, that place where it just settles down into bass and drums. It's a little more simple. They're not trying to show off with any flashy intro stuff, and they just give you the groove, and you're like, yes, solid minute or whatever. And then the ending and the outro and the build down and stuff. So I literally played through those scenes. You saw me do it. I improvised a little bit, made a couple mistakes, corrected them. I used my gap scenes to create a transition and create a new song section so it didn't turn into an endless loop that got boring. And I ended up with a good 7-minute track, which would be 5 minutes of playable music in a DJ set. And we want to hear what happened, so let's hear it. If you have any questions, type them in right now. It's about 12:45. I'm really sorry the stream glitched out. don't know why that happened, because that hasn't really happened a lot. FKA Mash to watch out for. Thanks for the tips. Diamond District, what's your name? Let me know who you are, and if you want to join us on the Mixotexture Discord server, we do track feedback twice a week where we play new producers' music, and you're welcome to join us over there if you want. Let's kind of get a grip on what's in here. I just did Option click on one of the little arrows to a little key command there. The next thing that I'm going to do, you notice there weren't any crashes in here. I'm going to go through manually and lay in the crash symbols at specific points in the track where I want them to be. Now I could build those into the scenes in session view and have them happen automatically. I just didn't get it done yet. That is something I do as like a final like spice on top, like decorating a cake or something like that. Crash symbols for me are like the last thing that I do. Then I get into final automation, make the mix, and export something we can listen to. And now we're listening to a piece of music. We're like in the flow. And let's say it was, yeah, 8-minute mix. That's a little bit longer than I would want. I would want it to be maybe 7 minutes or less, but you know, the ending was going on longer. I was talking in the middle part, and it's not super depth. There we go. What else did we talk about? At the very end, I was, you saw me playing with some effects manually, stopping some clips with the clip stop switches. Wait, add the marker. Next time we're gonna get into mixing, and I'll show you what I'm doing to make my mono low bus group, my instrument bus group, and my drum bus group, which is related to routing. I'm gonna do a whole mix workshop on the effects I have in my channel strips. What am I using for mixing? Why am I using those tools? Where does it come from? How do I use it? How do I make it easy? How do I make a mix? What's my strategy for making a mix? How do I get a good sounding track without banging my head against the wall feeling frustrated? The bang, the bang. I'll comment after the video with the Discord link. I don't want to try and grab it right now, but I'll get that over to you. Or if somebody else wants to drop the link, that'd be awesome. And let me finish out with a little bit of promo from courses.mixotexture.com, because what I did is I'm saving this whole Ableton project as a live pack that you can download. Bring that down a little bit. And this is the Mixotexture members site where I host hands-on session lessons and projects. And there's one down here called Making Buildups. This is going to include, these are all different products, right? When you click in, you see what's included. Right now, this has the project pack from last week with sound design, where we were doing layering, noise, you know, automation and stuff like that. That's where I showed you how to make automation in the clips to get those little clips that have a buildup with a reverb or a delay or a, you know, ADSR envelope getting tweaked or something like that. Now I'm going to add this week's live pack with all these scenes and sounds and MIDI clips and loops, so you can actually play through the session, play the song like I did, do a different song form, jam with it, look at the legato stuff, learn about how it happened, and watch the replay to do it yourself and learn by doing it. Requires Ableton 11 Suite, because that's what I'm working with. So if you don't have 11 Suite, you're not going to be able to use the project. That's kind of a downer, but that's where people are at. And this is all the stuff about the product information, blah, 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 blah. And I set it up with a pay what you want thing. This is a super cheap lesson, 15 bucks, 20 bucks if it's totally worth it. If it helped me so much, you can pay $25 and grab it right now. And I really appreciate the support. I think this is the best way to learn production, where you have a video to watch, where you get inspired to see what's possible. And then you go into live and get this exact hands-on lesson with all these labels in the master channel, all this stuff in here. So you can play through these sounds and clips and get the whole thing happening. So when I save the live pack, I'll clean it up and make the colors a little bit nicer and make sure it's labeled with everything. And that's available at courses.mixotexture.com. The bang. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. Hands down, your videos and teaching style is unmatched. Yes, Steve is the best. Thank you so much. Seriously, that means a lot, because you know when you're doing anything with electronic music in the YouTube universe, it's like there's a bazillion people, everybody's throwing stuff at you. It does feel really competitive, and I like to bring people into what I'm doing and kind of pull you forward. And I'm not trying to be like, I'm the best, but I do really love this stuff, and anything I can share, that's what I'm here for. Parrish, no webinar next week. Oh, on the 25th? No. No, we're gonna do I guess I better make a better promo about that. I'm going to do some special holiday week stuff, and I'm not traveling, so I am available to be online. But on the 25th, no, I'm not doing a mix workshop on Christmas Day. Sorry. We are doing track feedback tomorrow on Saturday and next Wednesday, and we'll be in touch about what else is going to happen. So what I got to do is drop in the Discord link for how to find Mixotexture on Discord, and you can find the link to this project pack in the video description notes. I would love it if people buy the project pack, download it, play with it, make a mix, share it with us, use it for inspiration, and do something new with your own music using this session view style. I realize it's not for everybody, but when you get a grip on what it's all about, it's super fun. Wait, Parrish, I did send out an email reminder for this one at 11 a.m. I'm not sure. If you can send me a private message with the email address that you want to get messages at, I can check what happened, Parrish, because I don't want you to miss these. And I try to also not spam people with 20 messages at the same time. It's always a balance of like, did I tell you enough or is it too many messages? The Bang, so you do mixing tutorials on hip hop, but can't match your energy level. Bro, hit the coffee cups, man. Seriously, I'm into being sober, producing clean, and then playing for a fucked up audience. I think that's the best combination. After years of being in the party scene myself, I really appreciate being healthy and having morning production time, no hangovers. It's a beautiful thing. But don't let me talk about myself all day. It's been about an hour. So thanks for watching, everybody. You can contact me, steve@mixotexture.com. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp. And anytime you have a question, just let me know. Let's set up a one-on-one chat. You can let me know where you're at with production, what you need help with, what I can do to help you out. And please visit courses.mixotexture.com to find courses on basic mixing, how to EQ your tracks, how to sidechain your bass line, sound design with operator, FM synthesis, subtractive synthesis, LFOs and everything. I love that course. And a couple other ones in there, and especially this one where you can download the project packs from this workshop to play with the sounds and learn by doing it. So you're not just watching on YouTube, you're actually opening live, making some music, and getting your head into the bass beats game. Min got the 11 a.m. reminder. Okay, thanks. I know I'm a little organized. Sometimes I pull it off. All right, have an awesome day. Have a great day. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm going to sign it off right here, and